whether that's postcard or social media or door knocks or open houses or paid leads or whatever it is. How can you help me increase that business so that my real estate business is very sustainable? Does that make sense? And that's the goal. It's like if you had if you had said, hey, my goal is to open up a seafood restaurant, most agents would go, in that capacity, most agents would parallel that with their real estate company, and they would say, okay, well, I need to start working on my brochure and my branding and my website and all these other things, when in reality, that's not what you should be focusing on at all. You should be focusing on how am I going to get enough touches into the world every day to equal the amount of contacts, to equal the amount of leads, to equal the amount of appointments, to equal the amount of contracts and closings that make me a sustainable business person for my real estate company. Does that make sense? So what we're saying is, depending upon your personality, have you guys heard prospecting time before? Oh, you should prospect or lead generate. Have you heard those terms before? Probably at Keller Williams. Well, what does that look like? If I said, okay, you need to prospect, and we're going to talk about it today a little bit, but if I said you need to prospect 2 hours a day, what does that look like for you? What does that look? Can I put you on the spot? Okay, what does that look like for you? Prospecting.
2 hours. Calling friends and family.
Okay.
Calling your priority clients, whether they be sellers or buyers, and then going through that tier.
Okay. And I think what you're saying is very true of what most real estate agents would say overall. Hey, we're going to call our database. Would you agree though that if we were fishing, that's just one pond?
Yeah.
And that if we're going to be a great real estate agent or business person in general, we have to have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 14 different ponds that we're fishing in, because given any day, we need to pull fish out of each one of those ponds, right? So what outside of that, if we said, okay, 14 ponds, if we had one pond, it's not going to get us to our goal. 2 ponds, no. 3 ponds, it's going to give us an okay business. Tom Ferry says, if you have 3 pillars of lead generation that you're routinely doing every day, calling friends and family, I've got a top 25, I'm going to go do pop buys with them, they're on some kind of a campaign for follow-up, I'm showing value, you're going to have an okay business. What does an okay business look like for you? Just surviving, right? So then we go, okay, well, what about 4, 5, and 6? Well, that's a good business. 6 or 7, 8, 9, that's a great business. 10, 11, 12, that becomes an empire. You've got enough leads that are coming in, enough contacts and appointments that are coming in that will sustain your real estate business. So the real question is, how do we use time blocking techniques and also understanding your behavior? Meaning, are you familiar with the DISC profile? Okay, you should go to Tony Robbins, type in DISC, and understand what your behavioral profile is, because that will dictate what's comfortable for you as far as lead generation is concerned. If you're a high D driver, type A personality, and you like people, and I try and make you cold call and say, you need to cold call every day, you're going to burn out, because it's not in alignment with what your natural behavior is. For every minute that I try and do that, I'm stretching a rubber band that sooner or later will stretch and crack and break. Or snap, let me use that word. So if you're there's 2 types of people in this world, guys. There's relationships people, and there's, anybody know what the second is? Systems people. Okay? There's people in real estate, agents in real estate, who recreate their business every year through cold calling and ISAs, or inside sales associates, through mailing and geographic farm, through all system-related component, calling expired listings or FISBOs or those types of things. And then there's relationship-based people who focus generally on going out and meeting people and networking and connecting and, hey, I like you, let's go get a cocktail. Okay, people like who they're doing business with, and their business thrives. So what you need to decide before understanding what techniques and pillars you're going to use for your business is, who am I? Who am I? And that will help you to get started and pointed in the right direction. But what I would ask you right now is, Lewis, what are your 3 pillars of garnering business? Okay, it's a rhetorical question. I'm just asking you. How are you going to sustain that? Okay, that's number 1. What do those look like? Anybody want to share what theirs are? I'll share with you what mine is. What mine is. Number one in real estate, database. What does that look like? Okay, really understanding and owning the database. How are you providing value to your clients? Do you have a system set up where you could call somebody, where I could call Matthew and say, Matthew, rates dropped today. You closed last year. Rates are 2% better than last year. If you refi today, no cash out, it'll save you $1,000 a month. That's bringing a value proposition to your client. It's not, most people understand, or yeah, I will use this word. They understand the word prospecting to equal bad things. Prospecting should be not a sales call. It should be a value proposition call. Lewis, how's your family? Hey, I was wondering, do you guys want to come to the barbecue this week? Or I'm hosting a concert event. Or, whatever. Hey, I was wondering, I just saw the house down the street sold for $2 million. You bought your house for $1 million 3 years ago. Have you thought about downsizing and using that equity to buy an investment property? See how I'm bringing value? Most people don't want to do prospecting because they think it's a sales call. It's not a sales call. You got to flip it. Provide value. Okay, so the number one pillar, according to NAR, 86% of all business comes from referral. So we're all jiving out there for the rest of the 14%, which is online leads and open houses and everything outside of referral business. So you got to get into a relationship with people. That's the number one thing. How do you do that? Mentioned it. Business to business, number one. Open house, number two. Meeting with past clients. Meeting with friends and family. And to do that, guys, you have to what? Schedule. You got to have a tight schedule so that you can meet with all these people. Okay? Those are the top three. Next, what do you think may be in the second tier, like 4, 5, and 6? What level? What kind of prospecting might those be? Anybody? Those would be like geographic farming, demographic farming, social media. What kind of content are you putting out on social media? Email campaigns. Could be agent to agent. Like, hey, I'm going to go to, where are you doing business right now? Where are you doing business most of your geographic? Where? Palo Alto.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you refer business to the city or do you take it?
I don't take it.
You don't take it? You don't? Okay, so maybe it's going to a couple of those team meetings in those brokerages and saying, hey, if you have anything to refer in Palo Alto, and think about this on a larger scale. Hey, can you, here's my card. I would love to have coffee with you and see if, we can establish a referral relationship. To be honest with you, agent to agent, obviously I'm in the Sacramento marketplace, have lived in San Carlos before, but one of our biggest draws in contacts and leads comes from agent to agent because we've established a large database that we send to twice a month. Hey, if you have any referrals for Sacramento, bring them on up. So one of those other pillars might be an email, large email campaign where you've bought names and you're sending them out. We're using, I don't know what Chrissy just started a new company. It's called Clickback. And they're phenomenal. They come up with the names and they scrub them and they're emailing and they're putting them on landing pages. But anyway, what you have to decide is, what am I going to do every day? Because before I can even say, hey, 2 hours of prospecting time or 2 hours of lead gen time, what does that look like for you? You got to have those names, you got to have those contacts ready to go every day. For instance, if I'm a Ford Motor Company and I came to the factory today, I wouldn't just simply say, hey, I think we're going to make, a couple of Ford Explorers today and a couple of Expeditions, and I think we're going to paint them this color and that color. How's that going to work as far as a business model is concerned? It's not, because it's not structured and it's not systematic. Okay? Make sense? Questions about that? Okay.
About the email campaign.
Yeah.
Are there any systems or any people can help us do the design for the email campaign or marketing materials?
Well, yes, for KV Core, which is more the internal database. For what I'm speaking of, though, I bought 100,000 agent names, and I'm paying about $350 a month to send out about 20,000 emails twice a month. And they designed all the landing pages and everything. So-
How much did you?
It's about $350 a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So just depends on what systems you have, you know. But right now, if you want to get into immediate production, my suggestion would be get your butt out there to an open house and start connecting with people and coming back and putting them into your database and showing value. So the key in sales, just in general right now, in 2020 is how am I providing value to my client? If you're making phone calls and you're not providing value, there's one thing that happens in the sales process, and that's you have to create curiosity with your client. So think about everything that you do to prospect. The key factor to moving forward and getting them into your sales line is, why are they curious about my services? What did we talk about last week? Do you remember, guys? We talked about the lore, didn't we?
Yeah.
Language of real estate. So what were some of the top tactics and techniques? I don't know. You weren't here, were you?
No.
Do you guys remember some of the tactics and techniques that we were talking about? Because we kind of hit on this, which was along those curiosity timelines. What if I could show you off-market properties? What if I could show you how we could save you, on average, my team and I, 2% of the purchase price? We're using statistics to create curiosity. Remember that? Okay. I want you to keep that in mind. Number one is, my suggestion would be, you've got to create a binder and get organized. What do you think would be in your binder?
Kind of binder. So,
Just a binder. Just
business
think about a binder.
Yeah.
And here's for me, this is why I create a binder, because it's simple. For systems people, they're going to want to have it in a spreadsheet and all over this place, and I get that in my mind, that doesn't speak to me. So take this model and follow it in whatever way you can so that it relates to your behavior. However, what do you think is going to be in your binder?
It's basically a business planning binder. So
Okay.
this is how you organize in your business, right? Like right now, if it's all in your head, it's good, but it's not great. And by documenting it, what happens is you're actually being able to open up, focus, see all the things you're doing, and add to it, and also see your vulnerabilities, right? So things you want to look at in your binder that he's writing down make a total amount of sense. For example, a business planning, that should be one thing. What do you want in 2020? How's your business going? What are you going to do to build business? Number two is like scheduling. How's your day-to-day schedule going to be? How are you going to hit the numbers? We use lead trackers as a third one. Lead tracking. So for example, if you want to do 100K a year, 200K a year, how many people do I need to call? How many appointments do I need to make a week, a day, a month? And how many, out of that total number, how many sales would that actually eventually get? Top producers, on average, are 1 to 110 contacts to get a deal. The general guys, or some who are pretty good but not great, are 1 to 137. Brand new agents are 1 to 400. But if you don't even know how many people you call, and you call 300, yeah, one person 1 to 436 right now, but then there's brand new, just started, right? No connection, no network, they just moved here. 1 to 436. How do you do 436? You're going to door knock everyone, you're going to go to networking events, call people. If you call no one, and let's say everybody hit 300, but you knew at 400 you would actually get a deal, but you never hit 400, then you never get a deal, right? And then how do you improve your statistics so that you convert better? Like, I call everyone, no one's picking up. Well, what's conversion now? Is because I don't know what to
So
say.
400,
36 contacts. So
you mean just people who, random people they know.
or even people like if I talk to you 10 times, but I still don't convert you, right? If I call all my family
Or
friends,
it's like 400 actual client who is
not clients, just people talking to you. Like you're following up. Like some guys cold call all day, some guys do knock all day, some guys do open houses every day or social media. 436 touches. Talking to people.
Okay, so here's what should be in your binder on a daily basis. I don't know if I have mine right now. Do I? Yes, I do. Something like this. It's just like this. Okay? Just a simple binder. If you look in here, I've got all these forms in here, to be honest with you, but what does this look like? Okay? So number one is your schedule. And going over here, we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to actually bring this over, and I'm going to share with you what the schedule looks like. But a lead tracker. What's a lead tracker? Are you guys using a lead tracker currently? In a game, in a softball game, a football game, a baseball game, how do we know if we're winning or not?
Exactly. Scores.
Track it, right? So there's a what? Scoreboard. So how do you know if you're winning or not in real estate? if you don't have a scoreboard?
You know,
You don't, right? So what has to happen is if your prospecting and marketing is working, you'll have a scoreboard, which looks like this. It's a lead tracker. It has their name, their phone number, their email addresses. It tells me if I've left them a voicemail, if I've LinkedIn them, if I've Facebooked them, if I've mailed to them, if I've texted them, if I've popped by to them, if I've added them to my database system. Okay, that is the lead tracker. You must start using this because if not, it becomes predictable. I know for every 40 leads that I get, I'm going to close 4 transactions. That's my conversion ratio, right? That's my scoreboard.
his is crazy high. It's good.
That's the scoreboard.
1 out of 10.
He's on Wall Street Journal and on HGTV, and he's like 13 deals in transactions right now himself.
This year?
Right now. No, just right
I've won an Academy Award.
now.
I've been People's Man of the Year twice.
Oh, yeah.
A Nobel Peace Prize. I'm joking, but anyway, it's my numbers aren't important. What's important is that you track yours and know, hey, I've got these contacts and leads coming in. I've got referrals coming in. Here's who is in my pipeline right now. These get transferred by my assistant directly into KB Core, so that now they're off of paper and they're started in some kind of a CRM or follow-up campaign for me to add a search alert or add a market update to, or to put that touch program together. Okay.
And having that paper right there actually helps a lot because most agents, if they put it right here, you're not gonna see that screen every single minute. But when you print it out and put it right next to you, you're gonna say, "Yeah, I didn't call you today," and you're gonna want to call and hit your numbers, and you know that you need to do this every day to help, right? But it's on here. I forgot about it. My phone forgot about it. Let's get that notebook. That's why you're having that daily tracker. But at the end of the day, because the system puts it in the system.
So outside of that, there's what we call, outside of lead tracker, there's an accountability form, and it's called the 55111. 5 new contacts, 5 follow-up calls. I keep putting this in your head. 5 follow-up calls, 1 greeting card sent out, 1 social media post, 1 appointment set for the next week, and 1 addition to your database. This can be done in 2 hours every day. Okay, if I ask you, I'm going to go back and give you another analogy because sales is a story, right? If I asked you, what hours is your business open? What would you say?